And
Yes,
I'm here.
please proceed.
uh, Thank you. Thank you, all the witnesses today. The original price tag for California high-speed rail, I've been talking about California's high-speed rail, was supposed to be a $33 billion. Over the past decade, price has exploded to more than $100 billion and keep going up with no deadline for completion. This project is unpopular in California, and Governor Newsom has stated that there simply isn't a path to get from Sacramento to San Diego, let alone from San Francisco to Los Angeles. As mentioned by Judge Trey Duhon in this hearing, this is taxpayer-backed disaster with no expectations of it working today, tomorrow, or next year. The failed project has also replaced farms, small businesses, and houses with help-built train tracks, and has ruined rural and suburban communities. In 2019, the Department of Transportation stopped payment of $929 million to California and ended its agreement with the state for high-speed rail because of their continued failures on the project. When Secretary Buttigieg testified before this committee, and I raised these concerns, he said, we have not had the type of resources or commitment that other countries have. $100 billion is a lot of resources. My constituents are already taxed enough with California state and local taxes, and skyrocketing gas prices making it unaffordable to live. I just came back from Texas. Their gas price was $2 something, and we are paying over $4 in California. We must preserve our local economy by lowering taxes, not raising them. And we must not continue throwing tax dollars into high-speed money pit. As I stated this, Judge Duhon, like you, I have a question. I'm not opposed to high-speed rail. California's high-speed rail has failed, and the Texas high-speed rail project is supposed to be privately funded. I am concerned about taxpayer subsidies going to this project if it continues to follow California's track record for mass delays and cost overruns. What are some of the lessons we learned from both these projects? It is fair to compare Japan's successful high-speed rail system to this project we're talking about in the United States today. Since I've been riding this high-speed rail in Japan, I was raised in Japan. You know what? It's very reasonable price and you can go really fast. So I'm not really against it, same as you. But just give us those lessons that what we can do in the United States.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for that question. And you know that's really gets to the heart of the matter. When if we're going to do successful high-speed rail, we have to really look at the factors, the real factors that makes high-speed rail work. And what are those factors? There's been a lot of folks that simply take the position because you have a densely populated area in Houston and Dallas that if we drop a high-speed rail line in between those two, that everybody all of a sudden is going to go to this high-speed rail line and ride it. And that's simply not true. There's so many things that go into what makes high-speed rail successful. I'll give you one example. The Reason Foundation has done studies where they have found that where you put in high-speed rail, where there was previously existing transit service, where you're replacing an older mode with a newer mode, and people are already used to using transit. And the example in Japan that you gave is a perfect example. A lot of people in Japan don't own their own vehicles. Their employers pay and subsidize for them to get on that high-speed rail. Between Houston and Dallas, you know, we have maybe 2,000, 3,000 flights a day that go between Houston and Dallas, and a lot of those are business travelers. So when you compare, it's just not apples to apples. And that's why this project, we've said from day one, would never cash flow. You know, where's the end terminus? For example, the station in Houston is still 9 miles away from downtown. So how do your business travelers get to the station rather than just go down to Houston Hobby Airport and fly to Love Field, which puts them 5 minutes from downtown Dallas. So these are all the kind of factors that go into. I can just tell you this: when you're looking at high-speed rail and you're looking at costs that have gone from 10 billion to 30 billion, and it really didn't cash flow at 10 billion, and then you have 30 billion, and you've got these very high projected ridership numbers. I just can tell you this: the folks in Waller County, the folks that I know, a family of 4 is not going to pay $1,000 to ride a train between Houston and Dallas when they can get there on a $50 tank of gas an hour and a half later. It's just not going to happen. So it's not a mass transit solution, at least not for this corridor. And I think we got to be real careful, because otherwise it will having a project like this fail will hurt projects where they should go, like on the Northeast corridor, where you already have people that are using transit, and we need better transit in those areas. But this project, for a lot of reasons, is just does not fit the mold for successful high-speed rail.
Thank you, Judge Dillon. I yield back.